Hello and welcome to our continuing series of legislative candidate interviews brought to you by Missoula Community Access Television, the Bresnan Communications, and the Montana Cable Television Association. I'm Mark Staples, and I'm conducting these interviews here in Missoula County between the legislative candidates. And this afternoon I have with me Senator Carolyn Squires from Senate District 48. Carolyn, welcome.
Good afternoon.
Carolyn's opponent, Monique Cratty, could not be with us, and so Carolyn, we'll try to cover some bases here and be fair to your opponent, but distinguish yourself at the same time. First of all, if you would introduce yourself to the viewers, the 20,000 Missoula Cable Television viewers, and give a little your background, your history, and your motivations for seeking this job once again.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carolyn Squires, and I represent Senate District 48. It's with a great deal of pleasure that I'm here today with my friend Mark Staples to talk to you about Senate District 48 and why I want to run for the particular district. I want you to be well aware of the fact that I have lived within my district for approximately 40 years. My children have been raised in that area, went to the Franklin Grade School, Hillgate High School, and my husband and I, in fact, were in the living room of the house that we bought in the area. And we've been in that house approximately 34 years, as that's our wedding anniversary this year. I served in the legislature for 7 terms as a member of the House of Representatives. I also served you as a member of the State Senate for the last 4 years. Due to reapportionment, I am new to some of you, especially those of you in the South Hills area, and we are now getting acquainted, and it's with a great deal of pleasure that I continue to serve you in the best way possible. I think I bring to the table my area in the expertise of serving in the legislature, of being in the leadership, as I was the Senate Majority Whip as well this last session, and I bring to you information in regards to workers. I have been involved with the Missoula Area Trades and Labor Council. I have been involved with unions. I have been involved with social programs here in town and have always worked for the low to moderate income folks to the best way possible that I can, because I see as my husband and I as being one of you. And my brochure has always said on it, a neighbor working for you, or our neighbor working for you. So that's why I consider myself a good representative of the district. I live in the district, I've worked in the district, and I've had kids in the district.
In your legislative experience, which as you said is of many years, you have not seen what, if you're reelected, we'll see this time. And as a matter of fact, in history, I don't know that any legislator has ever encountered what the incoming class will encounter, which is as of today, projected $750 million budget surplus. This presents its own unique set of problems. I suppose there are better problems to have than 750 in the whole, but
correct.
Nevertheless, as you're aware, there are competing plans. The Republicans is called the handshake with Montana. The Democrats is called the square deal. I know you're your own person, but do you endorse either one of those plans outright? Of course, you're the Democratic candidate. I wouldn't expect you to endorse the Republicans outright, but maybe you do. Do you endorse either one of those plans as a whole, or do you have your own ideas about where some or all of the surplus needs to be spent?
I support...
Or does any of it need to be spent?
Well, I support Governor Schweitzer in his plan to reimburse or send back to the homeowners, and homeowners only, the $400. And I think that's a significant amount of money. I served in the time when it was $75 and we still needed to to raise more money on the state level or at home here for schools. But I think this is a genuine proposal that the governor is currently offering. He's offering some other benefits in regards to that, and I'll just touch on them, such as an infusion into the pension plan, and I'll talk about the state park purchase, public land purchase. I think that's fantastic. My husband and I are avid park users and think that people in the eastern part of the state should have very much the same things as we do here over on the western side. And I support additional funding, of course, to education. I'm sure we'll get into that. But it's that give back of the $400 to the homeowners. And the reason I support that so strongly is because the Republican plan will allow for corporations to receive an 8% decrease in their taxes. And they've been given every break year after year after year that I've been in the legislature. And this is the time, and Montana Democrats feel it's imperative that the Montana homeowner receive some benefit. And I can't emphasize the homeowner, not the business.
How about, you touched just briefly, and I suppose you touched briefly because you knew I was going there next. The last legislature, in response to a Supreme Court decision that our public school funding mechanism was broken and inadequate, put $80 million during the regular session in new money into the public schools, and I'm talking K through 12, and 37 during a subsequent special session. I believe the governor has said he thinks that addressed the Supreme Court's edict or a decision, if you will, but there are others who, particularly some in the education establishment, say it's certainly not enough. It's a good start, but it's not enough. What are your thoughts on where we are in rectifying what the court found to be inadequate in our formula and our funding? Where do you think we are in the continuum from broken to fixed?
Well, I think it was a good start, and I mean, after education had been deprived for the last 16 years of funding, adequate funding, it was a jolt and a real satisfaction for me to be able to vote to say, yes, this amount of money will go into the school system. We need to address a couple of more issues, and that would be the all-day kindergarten. I'm really interested in having that put into place, and that will be some additional funding. And I'm also interested in making sure that the Indian Ed money, Indian money for Indian education, is also in that amount of monies that we deliver to schools, so that we can adequately fund education and what I consider a whole circle of education. And I'm sure we'll talk about higher education pretty soon, and I'll give you my philosophy about that one.
Well, just for clarification's sake, before we move on to that subject, when you speak about Indian education, you may be speaking about funds to go to schools on reservations, but in this particular instance, you're speaking about Indian education in all schools.
Correct.
Teaching about Native American history and culture in Montana.
Correct, and some places have found that a little difficult to do, but I think it's imperative, since they were some of were our first citizens within the area or in our state, and we've not always done the best by them, but I think that we need to understand them so that we can be more understanding and compassionate about our relationship with them.
Go forward now, because you were chomping at the bit to go there.
Education.
The higher education.
Well, I'm excited. I'm terribly excited about the governor being willing to put in $50 million into the university system and then cap the tuition. That may not please a lot of people, but it pleases me because every session that I've been there has been a case of, well, we can only put this much money in, and so therefore that will necessitate raising the cost of tuition for the kids. It's getting harder and harder for Montana kids to get to college, and we need to be working to make that access easier. The governor has, and the university, they've worked out a program here where low-income kids or kids who are having difficulty can get in and get a scholarship and go on. I mean, those cooperative arrangements between state government and the university system are imperative so that our folks, meaning Montana kids, can get into school, because I'm sure it's cheaper for kids in New Hampshire to come here and go to school and pay tuition than it is for Montana kids.
Carolyn, you've been around a long enough time to know that there are two sides to every position, and you always present yours very well in the spirit of a debate, and I know you're a skilled debater, so you'll field this well, I'm sure. The Republicans would say that one of the reasons, if not the prime reason, that education was funded less than adequately during those years that you speak of was because the monies simply weren't available. Now, that's not my message. I'm just saying you know that that's what they have said. And that it was their tax policies that they enacted while they were in the majority that have led to this surplus that has manifested itself over the last several years that now enable, in turn, legislators to put more money into school funding. How do you answer that?
I honestly believe that the austerity in the funding for the university system was a result of business equipment tax reduction, business tax, business equipment taxation, where the companies were receiving breaks at higher levels, approximately, I believe it was 12%. Now it's down to 3%, and the Republicans wanted to go down to 0. In other words, they'd only be charged 3% on their business equipment, and then nothing. That's inappropriate to me. When taxpayers are paying mill levies that we pass every 10 years, or every, I can't remember if it's 10 years, but the 6 mill levy for the university systems, it's always on the back of the taxpayer, the homeowner, the property tax owner, never on the back of anybody else that pays taxes because they figure out a way to find a loophole.
Speaking of taxes, do we need reform, or is the surplus indicative that the way we've got them set up now, the mishmash that we have, somehow works?
Well, I'm thinking that this is probably a bubble, and I'm not so willing to say that it's going to be here and go out and squander the money. I'm believing that the oil prices have gone down per barrel. I think we're less than $60 a barrel these days, and the lower they go down, the less money that we receive. One of the reasons that we received some of the money that we got was because of the high price of oil, and the revenue estimate for what we were going to spend was much less, and so therefore we come out with $750 million. I'm not so sure that's going to last forever. So don't count on me on creating a bunch of new programs.
Well, I've always thought it was an interesting phenomenon that on the one hand, we all certainly distressed by the high price of gasoline,
right,
and gas and
right,
oil. But at the same time, it created a windfall for the state of Montana.
Exactly.
So
yeah, it was a wonderful thing, and it took us all by surprise. I mean, totally by surprise that it did come in as high as it was. I wasn't aware we'd gone up to 750. I was still counting on the small amount of 500 million, and someone told me earlier today it was 900 million projected, but
with 150 held back for reserves, I guess.
Yeah, but
let me ask you about Governor Schweitzer, who seems to you've been excited about at least several of his proposals.
Mm-hmm.
Traditionally, the Democratic Party, at least some members of the Democratic Party, have been very leery about some proposals for development of natural resources, lest they despoil this beautiful state. And I mean, let's be honest about it. For a Democratic governor, some of his proposals for development of our coal and other natural resources are of a little different character. And you, if you're elected, you're going to be a Democratic legislator, and there are going to be some people that are up there opposed to those development, the coal plant proposals he has. Where's your allegiance going to fall there between those who believe that there's no safe way to do that and there's no safeguards in place and it should not be undertaken, and a governor who is, shall we say, at the very least, very gung-ho and believes he can do it safely?
Well, the proof is in the pudding, I guess, more or less, so to speak. But I'm anxious to see the proposal. I know nothing about what the process that he's talking about. I'm interested in reclamation. I'm interested in making sure that the environment is protected, but also I'm interested in the fact that folks need employment and good employment, and those jobs will offer folks a good income. So I'm waiting to see exactly what he proposes. I can't imagine, he's been supported by many of the groups that have also supported me, that he would fly in the face of those particular groups. I think he will do as he's done in the past, and that is bring folks together for a discussion process.
So that maybe you don't have to be torn from limb to limb between the two factions.
That very
That's
well
your
may
hope?
be. Well, you know, you can always pray for that. But you know, I think he is smart enough, and he has the respect of the state, and I think people understand where he wants to take the state, and he's so aggressive about it, and you know, and so excited about it that he enthuses anybody that he talks with. But still, like you say, there are some of my folks that may not be as excited, but we'll have to wait and see what the proposal actually what it does.
What is the most overpowering? We've got 2 minutes, and so I'll let you close. This is a hard thing to pursue. And you're a people person, but it's hard work. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of being pulled apart by opposing factions on lots of issues, tough decisions, not a lot of appreciation. What drives you? And when they go in the booth and they see Carolyn Squires and Monique Craddy, why should they check your box?
Because I've worked for them in the past, and I've done the best job that I could possibly do for them. I've been there for them for the last 18 years, and I want to be there for another 4 years and fulfill my commitment. There's nothing that I enjoy more, and I never thought, if you would have seen the shy kid from a Catholic school come in and be afraid of her shadow, it's not someplace I would have ever expected myself to be. But when I got involved in the labor movement and got involved with politics, that's where I wanted to be, and I've never wanted to give it up, and I've always wanted to be a part of the decision-making process. I know I do a good job. I know I've served my constituents well, and that's what drives me every day.
Carolyn, thank you for joining us. I know it's hard to fit these in. I don't know when they're going to be aired, but we're filming them in the middle of a day, middle of a work day. So thank you for taking the time to come. And folks, thank you for taking the time to tune in. And thank you for taking the time to study the issues, study the candidates, study their positions, and then acting on that information in November, going and voting. That's the crucial. All the rest of it is a waste if you don't exercise this gift we have in America to go vote and send the person who best represents you both to Washington, D.C. and particularly in Montana to Helena for the legislature. Thank you for tuning in.